Health Insurance Reform, Economic Development, and Senior Citizen now convenes this public and confirmation hearing. Public hearing notices were provided to the media. First notice on Wednesday, March 11, 2015, and second notice on Monday, March 16. Now, for the record, today is Wednesday, March 18. The time now is 5:32 p.m. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on the executive appointment of Mr. George Chiu as a member of the Guam Economic Development Authority Board of Trustees. Bill 445, an act to adopt the rules and regulations governing the issuance of health certificates. Bill 48, an act to expand the Department of Public Health and Social Services Division of Senior Citizens provision of Senior Citizen Center Services. And Bill 53, an act to adopt rules and regulations governing the sanitary operation and inspections of temporary workforce housing. I'd like to thank the senators who are with me this evening, Senator Respicio, Senator Nerissa Underwood, and Senator Jimmy Espaldon. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll start off the hearing today with the confirmation of Mr. George Chiu. I'd like to invite anyone who wishes to provide any oral testimony to please come up. If not, the committee will receive written testimonies. We'll keep the record open, and you can send that into my office or have it delivered here at the Guam Legislature's mail room. I'd like to now, if there's no one here who wishes to give any oral testimony, I'd like to call the nominee, Mr. George Chiu. Great. Thank you again for serving, and congratulations on your reappointment. You've served 4 years now as the Board of Directors of the Guam Economic Development Authority. And at least for me, I want to just let you know I appreciate the work that you have been doing and working with the committee as well these past 4 years. And so now you're here for your reappointment. And if you have any opening statement or anything you would like to say to the committee now, your opportunity, and then I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator Rodriguez, Senator Espaldon, Senator Respicio, Senator Underwood. Thank you very much. It's indeed my honor to be reappointed for a second term to serve on the Board of Directors of the Guam Economic Development Authority. Past 4 years has been very encouraging to see the development of the economy of Guam, and I look forward to serving another 4 years on behalf of the government of Guam and the people of Guam to try to further develop the economy of Guam for not just all our island visitors, but for the people of Guam especially. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chiu. Senator Respicio, Senator Underwood? Yes.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you, Mr. Chiu, for your service. I do know you're quite a busy man, and just the fact that you're willing to put in another 4 years to serve in a very important board is just appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Espaldon.
Mr. Chiu, again, same sentiments in that you have been very instrumental in serving our public. But I do want, for the record, since this is one of those things, I think we have to be very transparent, make sure nobody out there would have any questions concerning your qualifications. I do need to bring to light something that you did disclose, and that is basically that you are the director or an officer of certain companies that do have qualifying certificates for GITA. And is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And there are 3 companies that you do cite. And I won't name them, but there are 3 companies. I guess the question would be, when it comes to qualifying certificates, how do you handle it as a member of the board?
As a member of board for the past 4 years, anything regarding to qualifying certificates, I have recused myself from participating in any discussions or casting any votes, either in favor or against any QC situations.
And I appreciate the answer. Again, I just want to make sure that we're very transparent about, because I believe that you're going to have some very good support, if not unanimous support, for your nomination. And I just want to make sure that there are no questions that, we bypass this whole issue of the companies that you may be involved with in which qualifying certificates have been issued. Going forward, though, if I can just ask you a question, there seems to be an effort to kind of take a look at the whole qualifying certificate program and to see if we need to tweak it one way or the other, because we know that there are certain industries that have already matured, perhaps, and or other industry sectors that perhaps don't necessarily need them. Do you feel there is a need to take a look at the qualifying certificate program and see if we need to retweak it and perhaps put those funds towards other emerging sectors that we may view may have potential for our economy?
Senator, that's a very good question, and I think the Board of Directors of the Guam Economic Development Authority is already taking a serious look at it. I think the qualifying certificate has been a very hot issue in previous legislatures and probably will be so again during this current legislature. As a business person, we always want to see the government encouraging business development and economic development. So do I think that the qualifying certificate will help in that area? Definitely, it does help in that area. How it's managed and how it's implemented is also very critical. I think there has been some past complaints about the benefits of the qualifying certificate. So I think there's a new view of looking at it to make sure that any investment that's made, that the benefits from the qualifying certificate will not exceed the investment that was made. That whatever additional gain is made, the tax savings that's given through the qualifying certificates will basically be equalized. And I think that's the direction that the board has been working on.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Senator Espaldon. Mr. Chiu, again, congratulations on your reappointment. You have my full support, as you have the past 4 years. I will make sure that we move pretty quickly to get your nomination confirmed. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the next item on the agenda. It's Bill 45. We'll probably do the other one first. Yeah. We'll do the Bill 48-33. And we'll, yes. Yes, gotta go too, okay.
Most of them just signed up for the record.
Okay.
And then this one's just returned. Everyone else has anything.
Okay. Is Mr. Gillen going to, Jim gonna do an oral? Or Art? Art, were you gonna be doing oral or just a written? Okay. Our next item on the agenda is Bill 48. It's an act to expand the Department of Public Health and Social Services Division of Senior Citizen provision of Senior Citizen Center services to the operation of a new Machechi Senior Citizen Center by reprogramming and reallocating the sum of $50,900 from the FY 2015 Budget Act for executive branch operations. We do have a number of individuals who have who have signed up just to in favor of the legislation, who are here just to support it without making any oral testimony. We do have those who wish to provide testimony. Mr. James Gillen, Director of Public Health and Social Services, and also Ms. Sabina Tamundong. If I can invite you up to the front as well, if you're making oral testaments. Yes, before you, okay. Yes, ma'am. Just if you can state your name for the record.
Yes. My name is Sabina Tamundong, and for the record, I would like to say thank you for the Honorable Senator Underwood, Senator Respicio, Senator Rodriguez, and Senator Espaldon for giving me this opportunity to come and support Bill number 48. As we have here, I would like to outline what I wanted to justify why I am in favor of the request from our group, from the Ilocano Association of Guam, to be given a certain amount of money in order for us to continue to offer support services specifically intended for our elderly. And I would like to mention a fact that the growing number of senior citizens in our community is growing, and we are growing, and we are living longer, and we need a place to group together just for being together. Number two is that Dedido is a very big community. The mixture of different nationalities are older, and I would like to emphasize to the honorable senators and to remove the stigma that we are not only serving the Filipino community. This is open for everyone. Number three is that any amount of money given to us will be able to give us an incentive to continue giving support services to our elderly. And to conclude, it will give a very positive impact on the economic status of the people of Guam, because anything money given, money spent will enhance the economic position of our government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tamundong. I'd like to recognize also the presence of our Mayor of Dedido, Mayor Savares. Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Gillen?
Thank you. Good evening, Senators. Thank you for doing this I think this is the right time to do it after working hours. I find myself in a difficult position here. I wanted to check both boxes for and against, but I guess I can't do that. I'm for inclusion of any senior citizen in any community activity. The socialization is very important. Where we have some technical problems is how we're going to go about doing this. As you know, at least we have this arrangement with the Mayor's Council of Guam to provide support services for 12 senior citizen centers. We have an ongoing arrangement with them that works very well because, one, it's government to government, so it doesn't involve a lot of procurement steps. It's easier to implement. We have a very positive program with them. This bill asks us to find money, $50,000 some odd dollars, which comes out to about $8,000 a month if we were to implement it next month. The mayors are doing it now for less. And I'm thinking that if you are going to go ahead with this, and I think there's sympathy to have this done. And I know also worked with Mr. Ernie Sid for many years, know him very well. I respect and admire his ability to have gotten this thing done through the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority. They also probably have some restrictions on how things need to be done, and we probably should have asked them to be involved in the conversation. So my only real concerns are, are we going to be able to get this done for a price that's fairly equal to what we're doing now with the Mayor's Council, and perhaps with the assistance of Mayor Savares, actually treat this kind of as a satellite, not to lose its identity. I understand that, but I think when we start singling out individual NPOs or NGOs, then we set a precedent, I think, that could be problematic, because then we have any and all who may say, well, why not us? The government, in a sense, loses some control. I agree in private and public partnerships, absolutely. And in a lot of ways, they probably do it better than the government does it. But this arrangement we have with the Mayor's Council works very well. The seniors that participate in those programs are happy, by and large. There's always some people who are never happy, but it works well. And if we could work something out that way, I think also, the language kind of, from the executive branch standpoint, is really telling the governor, look, this is what you have to do with your budget. And by the way, next year for 2016, make sure you put it in your budget. And I think the governor would do that anyway if we got some positive discussion. I mean, there's no reason why we can't do that in that area, because it is basically an underserved area. It would be very convenient for the folks living there. And I know that it would not be exclusive to Filipinos, and that's great. I love it. So we would support the idea. The implementation may be something that we need to work on a little bit more. All right. So if you have any specific questions about how we would do it, Arthur San Agustin is here to discuss it.
Great, thank you very much, and I apologize. I guess I jumped the gun here when I asked for testimony without explaining a little bit about the measure. So yes, this Bill 48 seeks to first of all recognize that we do have a beautiful facility up in Dededo, that is capable of housing a third senior center for the village of Dededo. And so we know that, I heard today at one of the grand opening for the senior citizen homes up in Dededo that there's no longer that preferred waiting list. It's if you're there, they'll accommodate you. But we know that space is very limited, right? So we know there's a need for another senior center there. So this legislation, makes that policy call, which this legislature, really has a prerogative to do, to say that we want another center. We want the center to be supported, as this bill is doing, with government funds, at least as it starts up, as the initial startup of this. I've talked to the organization, and they also realize that moving forward, they gotta be able to sustain the operations of this center moving forward. And it's the intent. I will be the first to say the intent will be definitely to ensure that the guidelines that the state agency, the Division of Senior Citizen, has now in operations of any senior center is followed. And whether that would be an MOU similar to what you have now with the mayors. I don't know if it's directly with the mayor's council, or you have it with is it a nonprofit? It's directly with the mayor's council. And so, of course, we would, if you feel in your testimony we need to include that in the law, be specific, then we'll go ahead and do that, because I think that is something that they should also be able to comply with. So we'll do that. The other concern, I know that just briefly reading through your testimonies about the procurement process, right? I don't think you went through the procurement process even now with the mayor's council doing the operations, right?
Right. Because it's a government to government agency to government agency.
Mm-hmm.
Those don't apply. Of course, you still have to stipulate.
Sure.
All of
But prior to that too, in the previous, was it through an RF? Was it through a procurement when Garbs Prima was handling it? Please.
Thank you. Arthur San Agustin, all the services on contract through the Division of Senior Citizens are entered in three ways: invitation for bids, request for proposals, and if it's a government agency that we're contracting with, then it is done through a memorandum of understanding.
Okay.
We don't, and we have not done MOUs with MPOs directly. We actually go through the procurement process.
Okay. So, but there has been precedent set already that the government has in the past appropriated directly to NPOs, to nonprofit organizations. This bill doesn't do that. This bill recognizes the government agency, which is Public Health, Division of Senior Citizen, who has oversight of the program. That's why it's done this way, is really to recognize you guys as the ones who's overseeing this. In the past, I don't know if it's done through Public Health, but in the past, there has been direct appropriations to nonprofits. I'm not saying if it was done through Senior Citizen, but
Sure.
Other nonprofits. So, that I'm sure if that was a concern, that would really not be such a concern, because it's done. The precedent has been set on that already. Other than that, I don't have any other questions. I'll pass it on. I'm sure others may have questions, but your recommendations to ensure that the organization follows whatever guidelines, that's something that I support, and will ensure that we will incorporate that in this legislation. Senator Underwood?
Thank you. I understand that there's a waiting list right now for services being provided to our seniors in the Dededo area. Is there such a list? And if so, how many there isn't a list, a waiting list?
Last week, we checked with the Senior Center program manager, program coordinator, and he indicated that there was no wait list. Today, during the ribbon-cutting ceremony of the Alada Estates, Mayor Savares, who is with us, also indicated there is no longer a preferred wait list. Seniors who want to come to the center are able to be accommodated at this time.
All right.
Is there potential? Do you believe there's a potential of seniors that...
We asked that question of the Senior Center program manager, and he said, all right, we've actually been able to accommodate everyone that comes in at this point. So many years ago, we applied for a third senior citizen center in Dededo, and the application fell apart because when we actually went to the wait list, what we found out that it wasn't a wait list in the true sense that these seniors are not receiving services or that they can't be seen at the Estumbo Senior Center. It was a preferred list, simply that although they can go to Estumbo, they choose not to. They want to go to the Dededo closest to the Santa Barbara Church, located adjacent to the mayor's office. So we couldn't complete the application for a third senior center because of the fact that we didn't actually have a wait list years ago. And last week we followed up to be sure that if there was a wait list, and we were advised there wasn't, which was further confirmed earlier today by Mayor Savares.
Okay. I think she can correct me if I'm wrong. I think what I understood Mayor Savares say is that they don't have a preferred wait list. That if you come in, even if it's capacity, they'll still accommodate you because that's just the way she is. She's very accommodating. So so I guess as we move forward here and we do develop this center, we would really know. I mean, even the intentions in the past to develop a third center. Sure, it did fall apart at that time, but now I think we're closer to developing that third center, and that saying is, you build it, they will come. We don't know if that will happen here, but I'm pretty sure that there are. At least I'm from Dededo, so I know that there's others that would like to come. I don't know if it's something they've been told in the past where there was a wait list and they've never came back to double check, so we just don't know.
No, I just want to be clear on this. When we opened, we said we don't have an objection to this at all because, again, maybe our healthcare system's finally working because people are living longer, okay? And we know that's, when we had those discussions about assisted living facilities, that there are people, that could use the services. It's just for us, it's the operational mechanical part about how we actually do the contracting or purchase the service. Outside of that, that's probably a good location. I really don't know. But I know that Mayor Savares would need more help, and that's why we would, in order to oversee that, if it's going to be a satellite of the mayor's council. And, with the funding, we can help her with that. And she's a very busy person. She never says no, and that's probably one of her problems. But, we do recognize that there's an opportunity here to grow the potential, okay? And the facility is there. It might as well be used.
Thank you, Senator Espaldon.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Knowing full well what they're trying to do, it seems that they're trying to turn this structure built by the organization into a senior citizen center. I mean, I guess we can all agree upon that's the understanding right now. It doesn't state so necessarily in the bill, but by the letter that I'm reading, based upon the grant that was awarded to this organization, one of the items in their memorandum of agreement was to do just this, have a senior citizen services, health education, recreational services, which would be directed primarily at low and to moderate income residents in Mocheche and the neighboring areas. I just want to be perfectly honest, or at least have a very open dialogue right now, because I know you're tasked with so many things over at Public Health, right? And you oversee so many different areas, and this is just one of them. I guess the first question I have, do you feel that this would open the door for other organizations then to possibly start going down this road, and does that present any kind of challenge to you? Not just operationally, I mean, because it will. Logistics is always a nightmare. The concepts are always good and whatnot. Logistics and carrying it out, that's a whole different operation. And does that present any problems to you? I mean, do you foresee anything going down that road?
And to your question, Senator, with regard to other perhaps community-based organizations. I do anticipate others that may come forth. In the past, we actually had a different ethnic group request for financial assistance. What we offered, as we had offered to this current group, is that we can provide Title III services, nutrition services, case management, but we couldn't provide cash outright. They wanted funding for operational expenses as well. So yes, I would say that there is a great possibility that other community-based groups will come forth and request for similar support. And of course, as you recognize, yes, the Division of Senior Citizens has many, many activities and programs that they manage, contracts. And so yes, this would just add on to that already quite sizable amount of work. And our staffing, if we were to be fully staffed, we'd be 33, right? We're at 13. And
You're at 13,
so we're at
and 33 is fully staffed.
Yes, so we're at 1/3. So it would, it just lays out more work on the staff today that are there. I have a great amount of staff. They could do great work. We just completed an application for a daycare center to be added on to the Inner Senior Citizen Center, so we wish the best of luck to that application, about $871,000, so we're hopeful on that. But short of that, we're always moving forward. We're very receptive. We're not opposed to the opening, but one of the concerns we really have is how the measure is going to impact the other community-based groups, and also how would we engage the contract, because I don't have an MOU authority with a nonprofit. Otherwise, my current nonprofits would ask, well, could we not do the same thing too? Could we not go and ask for adult daycare to be through this process? And I'm sure that would be a big procurement issue.
Along those lines, and again, it's kind of a tangent, but getting back to the funding of this,
Sure.
are we talking federal funds or local funds, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. This measure is local. The program is overmatched, so there is a matched account, and then there's an overmatched account for Title III services, which includes senior center operations. But this is coming from the executive budget, so this would be 100% locally funded.
Okay.
At least that's my understanding.
That's the way it seems at this point.
Correct.
Right.
That's what I understand.
But if it was a true senior center, seniors community center, as is the norm right now, is being operated right now throughout the villages. I know that there is a nutrition program that is being implemented, right? And I'm not sure that's contemplated within this program. I would imagine it would be, right? I guess the question is, per person, per year, how much does it cost
For the nutrition
to
service?
feed, right? To implement that. Again, we're looking at a budgetary item, and if we're saying, okay, 50,000 is what we're trying to allocate, knowing full well that maybe they have a capacity that might be over 50,000, then we have to be real about this. Let's just not make some empty promises. Let's have a real conversation.
Okay, well, again, this is a very broad statement, just 50,000 some odd, okay, which could include some of the funding for the nutrition program. Okay, there is federal money in that. The average cost for congregate setting, the senior citizen setting, is $327 per meal per person, 5 days a week.
That's just for the meal.
That's just for the meal.
Now, there are other services that go along at the senior center, right, as well as personnel. And I'm not sure whether this money that we're trying to appropriate to this organization would cover all the extra or all the other services that are provided at the existing senior centers.
Well, the mayors are doing it for $5,000 a month.
$5,000 per center?
That's support, yeah. That is support for, the operation of the center. Okay. The meals are a different source.
Okay.
So it's 5,000 a month they're getting today, but in the last, roundtable we had, we know that they're very short with that, and that's something that's a part of a discussion we're having moving to the next fiscal year's budget. Is they know, they've said it even after the hearing. We had other mayors come forward and say we can't live with that, and so that's something that's a further discussion we would have, right? And so, but I think I can answer the senator's question on. He asked about whether this would cover the personnel and the operation. So this
same
is
kind
for
of personnel,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. The same kind of operation that
Yes.
goes on at other senior centers.
Yes, that's right. And then my understanding, and please just if you can confirm this, the nutrition and the transportation. That's something that my understanding is that you do have allocation if this senior citizen center was to be established. You have provisions for that.
Yeah, the current contract does provide for service in
Additional,
that area.
for additional. For
additional.
how much additional?
Well, you would go about 10% according to GSA. So
Okay.
we would be able to accommodate the potential clients that we were told this morning that it's about. We had a meeting earlier today with Mr. Sid and some of his members from the ILOAC group, and I understand it's about 75 seniors is what their capacity would be. So we would be able to meet that.
Okay, so it's not from this, it's already provisions that you would
Well, yeah, because
be
we
ready
don't,
for.
when this is presented to the department, we didn't have a breakdown of how the 50,900 would be used. So we're not sure what actually those funds are going to be generated, or rather not generated, but what they would be used for.
Okay.
And that's also requested here. The director's testimony is really a breakdown of that, because as the bill as it is saying that we need to budget for FY16, and we don't know if there's any equipment that's being purchased with the 50,900, and that if it isn't, we wouldn't have to budget for that perhaps in FY16. So we just don't know what the number.
Okay.
We know the number that you put forth, but we don't know how it was calculated or how it was added up towards.
Okay, I thought you would have got that information. That was represented to us, that they did discuss
We asked that actually
what
this-
the breakdown was.
Yeah, we actually asked them that this morning, Senator, and it wasn't provided at the
No,
time.
before that, even before this bill was introduced.
Yeah, before this bill was introduced, it was above the 50,000.
It was, oh, sorry?
It was above 50,900,
Okay.
and that was provided to me, but we didn't get an update on
That was
it.
probably for a year's worth.
Actually, it was less than a year. But,
Okay.
but short of that, we didn't get the updated version. We did ask this morning, perhaps it would get, at the time that this was generated back, it was 59,000. That's what was presented.
And that was for a few, well,
I guess this is dated back in October.
but that 59,000 was for an annual,
Right.
okay. Okay, so, we I completely understand that, you must know what the specifics are in
Right.
moving forward. So we'll
Sure.
make sure language is incorporated here to make it where it's something that, you'll be able to manage as well.
Could we also ask that you, as this director has stated in his testimony, we really need you to stipulate what kind of financial arrangement we would get into with the group? Because it's great that you could appropriate and give the authority to appropriate the funds, but I won't be able to engage a contract without the authority to do so. So, as the director noted, perhaps if it was through the Mayor's Council, it would be that through an MOU. However, we would need the Ilocano Association of Guam to agree to that, because the structure is not under the municipality of Mayor Savares, in terms of, the physical jurisdiction of the Mayor Savares' office right now. It belongs to the ILO-AG group. So,
Yeah,
we're looking
and
at two different.
and that's what I was going to bring up also, because I do appreciate your department director's position that you're not opposed to the bill, but
No.
something needs to be done to work out the mechanics of it. And the
mechanics,
discussion
yes.
has been very, very helpful, and we understand the discussion continues to be on the premise that this really is a facility that was provided through a grant that was available through GORA. And I think what the Ilocano Association of Guam is saying is that from the time they opened up this facility till now, they're having to raise the money themselves to keep pace with the power bill, with the water bill, and in my observation, they're not only taking care of senior citizens, but they're also taking care of the youth. They have a basketball court, someone's watching them play basketball late into the evening, and so the power has to be on for that. They're cleaning the facility themselves, and I think that with or without this $50,000 appropriation, they'll continue to do that. But at what point do we continue to ask them to do that when they're coming to us saying it's very difficult? And all of us here in this room and all of us who are supporting this bill, including public health, recognize that. Mr. Chairman, I was going to suggest, and Mr. San Augustine brought it up as well, was instead of just making this money available for the Delito Macheche Multi-Purpose Community Center, we just appropriate it to the Ilocano Association of Guam. And as you pointed out, there's precedent that we've appropriated directly to the Department of Youth Affairs for purposes of sanctuaries operations. We've appropriated to certain departments for purposes of NGOs to recognize the public-private partnerships. If we make this appropriation to the Ilocano Association of Guam for the operations, purchase of supplies and equipment, you will not have to worry about an RFP or how they would go about procuring for those goods and services, this will be treated as a grant. So if this passes and the governor does find $50,000 from within the current executive budget, transfers the money, reallocates it to public health, you can then release this on a quarterly basis, and then their books, as they know, would be subject to audit. And that's how my experience is, that's how we treat these appropriations to NGOs, is that for this money that they receive, they are making their books available. So they have to have receipts. If they're going to spend $1,000 a month for the power, they have to have a power bill that reflects that. If they're going to be procuring for supplies to do their nutrition program or even paying individuals a stipend, they're going to have to justify that. So this appropriation could be done on an annual basis, provided this organization is in good standing. So I know that what we're trying to do through Chairman Rodriguez here is kind of unprecedented in a sense that, it might open up the floodgates to other NGOs, but I don't know any other NGO that is sitting on a $846,000 facility paid for by federal funds. And if we leverage some local monies, we can maximize the usage of that facility, and I think we're on agreement there. Would it be easier for you if we just treated this as a grant? Administratively, I imagine it would.
Again, this is the operations guy of me coming out. We're still going to have to figure out how to parse the numbers. It is basically built with GURA funding, which provides for community activities. So then we have to decide which part of the operation is senior citizen activity, and so we do all the prorations and things like that for power. And it can be done, but we just have to consider all of that. And as Art says, he's down from 33 to 13 to oversee a lot of these activities. But you're right. I think the government of Guam has a particular interest because we overmatch the feds. One of the few programs that overmatches the feds by $8 to $1. So I think we've got a lot to say about how we can do these services. It's doable, but it is one where I think we have to have a little sense of caution, only because there will be a line of folks with other interests. The other group that was interested in us helping them with providing nutrition services wanted the cash only, and because they had a specific idea about what kind of food they wanted to serve and those kind of things. And it gets very, when we have to start telling the feds we're still meeting the 1/3 of the average daily nutritional requirements, and we don't know what that is, then we wind up paying 100% of that if the feds find us non-compliant. So there's a lot of those kind of.
But you don't want a administrative arrangement where they submit a power bill to you and then you're having to cut a check to GPA. No. You won't be able to keep up with those kinds of transactions.
Yeah, but we do. If 80% of the operation is for seniors, then 80% of the bill gets credit. For that.
No, but I'm saying that you want to, in my mind's eye, you would want to treat this as a grant. So you would give them, you take the $50,000, you can divide it into 4 quarters or whatever they want, they think they need in order to sustain operations per quarter, and how that money would be divided up. You would give them the check, and then they would be paying the vendors directly. They would pay GPA, they would pay GWA, but those transactions will be subject to regular audits by your division, Mr. Snagostine, and I think that would be the easiest and way to go. So you don't get in, because if they're going to rely on you to cut a check to GPA and you're not able to do it because of cash management or because of accounting nightmares, and their power bill will get cut, and then you guys will have to face all the angry senior citizens and also the youth that need those kinds of resources. So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, if I may. I just can't help but notice troubled looks on the gentlemen who are before us, and rightfully so, because the burden is on them to provide testimony on behalf of their oversight, which is, again, in this particular instance, the senior citizens. I know they're trying to figure out how they can help this work, but at the same time, it's a whole new field that we're opening it up, right? And I'm not sure that this one public hearing after it should be the end of the discussion and then the bill is ready to go to the floor. It seems, if I read their eyes correctly, I think there's a lot more that needs to be discussed to make sure, because I think they're being very careful. They're being very respectful to the members of the organization who are here to make sure that they understand that they're not against it, but there's a lot of challenges that occur when we do open up this venue to be able to do it, because this not only concerns this organization now, because once we go down this road, what I think I'm hearing is this opens up the door to all the other organizations out there who might want to do some community good. And again, just the logistics and the legal qualifications that need to happen, right, have got to be in place. And the task is upon them, who are there acknowledging, and they've said it several times, who have a staff of 13 when it should be 33. And again, the burden falls on them. So we can come up with all these ideas, but again, I just want to make for the record, Mr. Chairman, that I believe that we all want to move forward, but we can't do it in a piecemeal basis, saying let's just move forward now, without really trying to understand the real challenges that public health is going to have to go through and what other unintended consequences might be out there because we've opened this door. And again, I think it's just in all fairness, Mr. Chair, that I recommend and request that this public hearing be continued, if not as a public hearing, but as a roundtable furthermore, right, to discuss these issues. And again, I'm just trying to read their eyes, read their body language.
But I was thinking that the solution I was offering would bring smiles to your faces and remove that troubled look or doubt, because it's really simple. You don't have any other organization that is sitting on an $846,000 facility. So you're leveraging $50,000, $51,000 a year, hopefully, to keep a $846,000 facility in operation. And so the greater consequence is, if there's any further delay, what happens if they can no longer pay GPA? What happens if they have to cut the power off to that facility, and the kids who go play basketball at night have no outlet to let out all their energy? What if the Manamcos no longer have an outlet to go to a facility that's clean and they appreciate, they enjoy? So the consequence of having that shelter closed even for, or that center closed even for one day, it might be, it's a preventative measure. I'm saying if the kids have nowhere to go, or the Manamco have nowhere to go in the daytime, what happens for that one brief moment that facility is closed? And I've heard from Mr. Sid over the years that he's really needing help from this government, and I appreciate Senator Rodriguez finding, although difficult, finding a creative way to making this happen. And I think if we amend the bill to make a direct appropriation to the Ilocano Association of Guam, it's justified, because there's no other organization that worked very hard with GORA to have a facility built that they were going to. Sanctuary did the same thing, and they get help from the government so they can keep their operations open. We can just model this after what they've done, and I think it's simple. It's just a grant, and then we can always revisit it in the upcoming appropriations. But I think they have receivables that they have to take care of, I understand. And in terms of the power, in terms of the water, in terms of...
So there's some obligations or things that have already been incurred that this is going to take care of?
Well,
is that what you're saying?
Well, I imagine that the current...
Maybe you should just, yeah, you're right. Maybe you should just give them the money, and then we don't have to deal with it.
I think so too, that if it's just...
That's fine. I mean, you know, it's a whole new way of thinking for us.
Okay.
Because we're used to saying, well, you do it this way, and you have to have this, and you have to have that. But if it's really a case of providing this facility with the means to continue to operate, and as an adjunct, it becomes also a place for senior citizens to gather. We can work some things out, I think, as far as the nutrition program goes, but it's going to be a different, if it's not going to be through the Mayor's Council, then it's a different procurement process. And I hate to sound like the ultimate bureaucrat, but there are those things that
No, I appreciate your
deal
perspective, but
okay?
I think
if you want to give them the grant and say in that 50,000 some odd, is 100 times $3.27 a day for 5 days. That would include meals, and maybe we can deal with the vendor.
Well, you just said that the meals are coming out of a separate
but
budget. You wouldn't require them to provide meals under this $50,000 appropriation.
No, but if we're going to make an arrangement with them to be one of the centers where meals are provided, we're going to have some stuff in writing about how that.
But that would be in addition to the
Right.
50,000.
Right.
It wouldn't come out of the 50,000,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Well, Mr. We're only assuming right now, Mr. Chairman, if I may, and again, if I might ask you, Mr. Gilliam, have you seen the facility?
Oh, yes.
And in your estimation, how many people can it hold effectively for a senior citizens' day operation?
Depending upon how you
set it all up.
Probably at least maybe 100.
Because it's about
if you
4,000
see
square
it,
feet, I
right?
understand. I think some senior citizen centers about the same.
There's one large room, and then there's some smaller, but
The small rooms.
It could accommodate with the proper team.
Well, I mean, if you compare it to other senior citizens centers out there right now, I mean, again, I'm not asking for a hard, fast number. I'm just kind of asking for a guesstimate. 60 to 70?
He's saying 75, so.
Okay,
lower.
somewhere in that neighborhood. And I just want to get an idea. Right.
Our senior clients who are wheelchair users or using walkers would also be able to have access throughout the facility. So we've never done this type of contract, and so my mind is rolling really quick thinking what kind of grant terms and conditions I would be putting forth. One of the areas, if I may then ask that you also consider in your bill, Senator, at this time is that one of the activities that was raised this morning, because we are working with this group already, they came over and asked if we could give them some guidance in terms of the daily operations of the senior center. We said, sure, we would. So we had our first meeting this morning, and one of the questions they raised right away was, we want to raise money. So as you do give these funds for them, if you could also put, and that's where I'm coming from, is the mechanics of, well, if we give them $50,900 and they raise $10,000 in bingo funds, can we use those funds to be clear that they're used for the senior center and that these accounts are separated from their primary association account, so they're not commingled. And then, we're back with you 2 years later and you're saying, this is a mess and the accounting is poor, and so there has to be some kind of, with grants, there's going to be terms and conditions that I would ask that they agree to comply with the division so that we can have a full accounting, because I imagine you perhaps, Senator, as a chairman, or one of the other two gentlemen may say, we want to see where this is at, how much money was raised. Let's call Arden and Mr. Gillen and let's get a review of this. And so we also need to make sure their books are clean so that we can present that to you. Unless you're going to have them do that themselves, which is fine with us too.
I think it could be stipulated in the bill through a MOU process what they would be required to do in order to be in good standing.
Yeah, that would really help us because we've not done it this way. So.
Okay, great, Senator, you're good. Okay, Senator Respicio. Okay, great. So definitely, we will have more discussions with you folks and ensure that we put language in here that puts the safeguards in place for both, for you guys and also for the organization. But I think I just want to address something here. I know that just like any other government agency, you guys are strapped resources-wise, but it's an opportunity. You guys submitted your FY16 budget. How much more personnel are you requesting for?
Right now, we are actually actively recruiting. So there's a group, we're like two sets. We have like 3 positions and then a group of 4 positions. And so the total is 7 positions that we're trying to get filled right now.
And so right now you have 13.
Yeah, that would
are you
bring us up to
budgeted for
20.
33 and you're just not getting, is that what it
not
is?
so much budgeted. It's actually what the division was at one time. But throughout the years, 1 year with you basically the position was vacated, it was zero funded. And that one was, of course, in the government had very trying times. So we lost people through that process as well. So it's having to refund those positions that were once funded.
Okay.
We've, over the years, again, from what I've been able to observe, they've made do with what they have. But you get to a point where you add one more thing and the whole thing falls apart. If they get the 7 that they need, they'll be able to handle some additional work. We don't need 33.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just a historical. I mean, this department lost 50% of its staffing over the last 10 or 12 years. We're managing. Okay, we're getting to the point where we're starting to fill some positions that are critical, so we're managing. So with the 7, if he gets them on board fairly soon, we'll be all right.
Great. Okay. And it really tells a lot. You said it earlier. What kind of community we are with the kind. I mean, you said this is the only program that we overmatch. The only program we overmatch 8-1. So it really tells what kind of community we are. We take care of our manamko, of our senior citizens, and so this this perception that maybe this now would open that box up, the Pandora's box, and others would come. But really, if there is a need and that others are willing to come forward and provide the service for Manamco, I'm sure we'll be able to find something to be able to accommodate. If there's no need, then there's no reason why we should be even entertaining it. And so that's something that I think we shouldn't look at it as a as something where it's a bad thing. I think it's something that we should look at as a good thing. Find ways to make it happen instead of finding ways not to. So again, I just want to thank you guys for being here this evening. Thank you to your staff who do a lot with very little. I know that. I work with these guys, and so they're very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing that up, sir. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so this, we do have other testimony that was submitted by the Ilocano Association. Is there anyone else that wishes to, if there's no one else that wishes to testify, then we will complete this public hearing on Bill 48 and move on to the next item on the agenda. Okay, so if not, thank you very much for coming. The next item on the agenda is Bill 53. If I can call on the representatives from the Department of Public Health and Social Services. Okay, this is 45. Thank you. Okay, and we can hear both bills together, Bill 45 and 53 simultaneously. Great. Thank you very much, Director Gillen again, and Mr. Tom Nadeau. Thank you for being here. Just to give a little background, both bills were rules and regulations that were submitted by the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
Do you want to wait?
Yeah. If we can just keep the noise down, please, before we continue. The committee will take a 3-minute recess. The committee is back on at 6:26. The next items on the agenda are Bill 45 and 53. Both these bills are relative to adopting rules and regulations that were submitted to the legislature via the AAA process. The first bill, Bill 45, is an act to adopt rules and regulations governing the issuance of health certificates by amending Article 4, Division 1, Title 26, Guam Administrative Rules and Regulation. And Bill 53, an act to adopt rules and regulations governing the sanitary operations and inspections of temporary workforce housing pursuant to subsections 21.102 of Chapter 21 and subsection 26.305 of Chapter 26A, Title 10, Guam Code, annotated. The process is that when these things come down, we either have 90 days to either let it lapse into law, becomes law, or introduce a bill, just like we did with this, to provide that extra layer of public scrutiny, and that's the practice of this committee. In doing so, when these rules and regs come before the committee, and so we've sent out invitations to all those we believe would be affected by this. It's a great number. We talk about health certificates, right? So, but it's only you guys here. So, and I'm sure the same thing in the packet you submitted. No one attended the public hearings when you guys had, or there was very minimal attendance. So we will continue to seek the public's input in this. We want to make sure that it's done so that they know, what is happening and any amendments that are being made to these two programs. So now we have Mr. Tom Nadeau, Administrator of Environmental Health, and Director Gillen, who's here. If you can please, I'm going to provide your testimonies.
Thank you, Senators. So we're going to simultaneously say that we agree. We've held the public hearings, and then looking at your bill enacting all of this, which also I noticed because I was concerned about what happens if we make subsequent amendments. Do we need to go through the legislation? But you've allowed us to, again, go through hearings to make those amendments, but it still would be promulgated here through AAA. So, we've had the hearings. We know that, just the health certificates alone, we issued something like 30,000 last year. We're looking at enhancing our IT capability, so a lot of this is going to be able to be handled at least more efficiently and quickly. I think the highlights will be when the new facility, the new Environmental Public Health Lab opens in Dededo. We'll have a 50-seat classroom where we will be doing the instructions. We're actually going to take that back from GCC and do it ourselves. That enhances our income, makes us a little bit, more flush, if you want, but we'll be able to purchase more things, hire more people, and have a system where the IDs, the certificates can be issued fairly quickly. And we're really talking about trying to match up now, actually having faces that match up the health certificate. So I think sometimes we visit a place, there's a name, but the person who is not, so we want to try to catch all of that as much as we can. And I think having that back, people who really are good and know really what they're doing here, because we just had that recent incident with a food vendor, a major food vendor, where it appeared that those folks had health certificates but didn't seem to know much about food safety. So we want to bring it all back in-house. So we'll do that. We have some cosmetic things again, and they're really like minor things, like put an O instead of an M, and put italicized Latin words and do these kind of things. So I mean, Tom and his folks are very, very on the ball with looking at everything here. There are some changes. You were asking for a manager's certificate, where before we hadn't had anything like that. So we get a little bit more involved in again making people a little bit more responsible for the people that they oversee, which obviously is a great idea. I don't know, Tom, do you want to add anything to 4533?
No, just to comment what you just said, sir. It is our plan to, as the director mentioned, to basically take over the workshop that GCC has been doing, and we've been very grateful that we've been able to do it. But now that we have the capability, I think it's time for us to take that responsibility back and to assist in our lab, because to run a lab is not is quite expensive, and we do need additional revenue to make that happen. And this is another source that we can rely on to ensure we're able to maintain the lab. And also expand the workshop training, not just to food handlers, but to all others who will be required to possess health certificate. And I believe education is just as important, if not more, than the regulatory enforcement that we do. So I think it's very relevant that we focus on the education as well, and the workshop is part of that component.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, on the health certificate rules and regs, I noticed there were some sections that were strike through. One of them is a temporary health certificate. Are you discontinuing that practice of issuing temporary health certificates?
Yes, that is what we're proposing. How that works, Senator, is that if an entity was to have a temporary to have a temporary sanitary permit, that operator in turn can have temporary employees and thus a temporary health certificate. The problem we face with that, Senator, is that these individuals could be literally someone off the street. Would you like to work for me? All you need is, I just need your name, your SS number, and submit your name and that information to public health, and we simply get that list, acknowledge it, and they pay the necessary fee, and that's it. The person may have zero information on food safety, may not even have, obviously the person would not require to get any kind of health clearance. So we think it's kind of I don't want to say a loophole, but just definitely a challenge for us in ensuring the person first of all, has the knowledge to understand food safety, and also has a potential to transmit any kind of disease to those around him or her. So it's one of those areas that need to be addressed and just taken off the books, if you will, and just ensure that they meet the full qualifications to possess a health certificate.
What is the requirement now to obtain a temporary health certificate?
Just as I said, Sir Senator, you just
So you don't have to, but is there a time frame? What's the time frame of that temporary card?
It's only valid for the temporary event.
Just for the temporary event, okay.
Right.
So you only issue temporary permits, sanitary permits for like road block, how they have that fiesta?
Yes. Essentially, that's correct, Senator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I know that you're going to have to be a little bit more responsive to those concerns because they do involve the village fiestas and those kind of things, which are great events for the villages. Usually, when we deal with the mayors on those kind of things, and they usually have at least a permitted cooking, stabbing a kitchen or something that we feel is, as long as the things are done there, that we're fairly comfortable. But we've always been a little uncomfortable with the temporary health certificates because it really is basically they just give us a list of the names. We try to give them information in a pamphlet form about food safety, but we don't know what's going on with that, or whether they're doing it. So we've tried to make accommodations to get them through that, and I know we've gotten some resistance from some mayors who just refuse to comply at all. And we really don't know how to get around that and still, comply with the laws that we're required to comply with, because I've asked Tom several times, why don't we just tell the mayors you take the responsibility, you sign waivers that you'll take the liability for all of this, and Tom makes the right argument. We cannot give up our legal responsibilities unless the legislature tells us we can. Because we're really concerned about that. A lot of people, especially when our tourists are going to some of these events and some of these other things, it's kind of like the school thing that just came up. You just have to be careful. We want to be sensitive to traditions, okay? But some of the traditions, the times past, they kind of got it, as far as making sure they didn't eat certain things that were out for too long. I mean, they just learned by experience. So, when they say, well, I've eaten all this food all my life and I've never been, but it's really not like that, especially when you see what's on now the typical fiesta table. It's just not the same, and it changes from year to year. So we really want to try to keep people in compliance with that, but it's very difficult, and we recognize that. So at least if we have it, a little bit stronger in the regulations that we don't allow for it. Although, again, with the fiestas, they all generally come at the last minute. I don't know how we'll put on a workshop. And I'm thinking about operationalizing all of this. It's going to be a challenge, but this division has always been able to rise to almost impossible situations, and they've done a great job.
Okay.
So,
I'm just
but it'll be
concerned,
up to you. I know you have to respond to some constituencies that may not agree with this, and that's your prerogative under these.
Yeah, but we always, we always defer to you, the professionals. When it comes down to that, still concerned on how we would address it, right? Because we do have these special events, right? And so, what will the consequence be now? These events still happen, and because you still have a temporary food establishment permit.
That's correct.
But now the people that would be serving now, are we not even going to have their contact information?
Oh no. Well, we're basically familiar with all the large temporary events that's going to happen. Maybe those that first-time operators or those unexpected events, those are the ones that we usually tend to miss, meaning since we're not aware that they're coming through. But we keep records of all the major events that occur, and we're very proactive. We reach out to the coordinator, whether it be the mayor or a particular event manager, and we notify them and basically remind them that they had to go through us. So we're being proactive, and nothing prohibits them from hiring someone who already has an existing health certificate, or work with them to ensure that we provide a training in advance. And I think that's the beauty of taking over the workshop training, Senator. I know GCC, they have their own set schedule, and like during certain time of the year, they do not have the training because the class is out or the instructor is unavailable. For us, as I shared with my staff, that we're willing to have these workshops when it's best for the public, whether it be on the weekend or in the evening, just we can best accommodate them. And it doesn't have to have a full set of class to have these workshops. We can do it on site. We can have just 1, 2, 10 if necessary. As you know, we've been very proactive responding to community's need, and I think we can rise to the occasion as the director has mentioned. So, sure, there could be a potential problem in the sense that they may not get the person right away, but believe that most of these coordinators, the event coordinators, they do plan ahead. So we work with them in the past. So I'm anticipating that with this was the past and existing language, they'll just need to adjust to ensure they come earlier, or to simply ensure that the individual they hire or to get the assistance from either has a permanent one, or ensure that they get one before the event starts.
Is your permanent health certificates, are they portable?
Portable in the sense that if you have for one category, it's good for all other places. For example, if you work at restaurant A, it's good for restaurant B, provided you don't go outside your category. Obviously, if I have a restaurant health certificate, I'm not be working as a masseuse with that health certificate.
Yes. Yeah.
Different requirements.
Okay. I see. So it's different categories, restaurant, and then just for like if you're a drink server, bartender, I think you need one too.
That's all food handler, the same category, Senator. But it would be like, for example, therapeutic massage, different from a restaurant, which is different from a child care facility. So cosmetologist, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, that's another area that we plan to have the workshop for, cosmetologists, and basically everyone who's required a health certificate. Because currently, it's only the food handler that needs to go through the workshop. But we'd like to expand that to ensure that everyone who possesses a health certificate, who's working at a regular facility, have the minimum training and understanding in preventing disease transmission.
Well, so what would you classify fiesta or special event? What type of
Well, I think
classification?
the common village nightly events, whether it be on a Friday or Wednesday, whenever. That's an example of one. But also, some of the major events that occur at the UOG Fieldhouse, that's an example of a temporary event.
So no, but what would you classify the health certificate? Would it be of eating?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Pardon me.
So I guess another
I have my
option.
staff here, by the way, to help me back me up.
So I guess another option would be for these event organizers to get people that already have these certificates, permanent certificates in that category.
And also, some of them actually they cater the event, if you will. So they have an existing facility, existing staff who's permitted, have the health certificate. So there's no challenge for us. They just simply have the necessary requirements, meet the requirements, have the permit, the certificate, whatever, and just do what they need to do. It's those that maybe first time. Oh, good example is we just had the charter day, right? Every year you have maybe a different group or different students participating. So they would seek a temporary health certificate. Like recently, but these are things we prepare for our division, so we know when they're coming. So we reach out to the community or the organizer event, and in fact, we've gone out of the way to provide training or face-to-face encounters to ensure that they get the basic minimum information. But we like to make it formalized, if you will, through a workshop, of course, and with a permanent health certificate, which they can carry by the center to all other temporary events that they wish to attend, provides the same category. So they benefit as well, because that temporary health certificate is only good for that particular event. But when that's over, then they have to get another one for another temporary event, or just get a permanent one, which is good for the entire year, for the entire category. So I think there's a benefit to everyone in this, not just public health.
And how long does it take for that application process for a food handler permit?
Okay, well, if the minimum requirement just to get what's called an interim, which means a temporary, while you get the permanent one, is as soon as you get the test for tuberculosis. Now, granted, we understand that TB is not a foodborne disease, but because of the number of cases we have on the island, we included that as a public health concern. So once they pass the TB test, they pay the necessary fee, and they can get it then and there. And then we schedule them for a workshop. But they can still work in the meantime while they wait for that workshop. And once they pass the workshop, they get a permanent one, which is good for a year.
But you still give the interim health certificate before they get the workshops.
Correct,
So
which allows them to work.
Your argument to do away with the temporary health certificate is because those employees or those individuals are not going through the training and the workshops. And
It's the waiting time, Senator, also. Sometimes they wait a couple of weeks from the time they get it to the time of the workshop.
No, because I know, as the director pointed out, I mean, I granted very few people came to the public hearing throughout your AAA process, and tonight we're here, 2 senators and 2 of us here, and several of you and your staff. The community will not become aware of this until there's a need for temporary health certificates. It's no longer there. And so in trying to be proactive, as the chairman keep was bringing up, what's the remedy? What's the solution to if you have a special event? You mentioned the mayor's director. You have events at the University of Guam Fieldhouse, or you just have these community events from time to time that no one can really anticipate, but there's opportunity to have a concert for a public benefit. Even that would require those individuals to have a health certificate, and if they didn't know about this process and they're not aware that there's no longer a temporary health certificate process, then what if there's no servers, no individuals that they can find with health certificates so that they can serve the food? And if you're saying that you don't want to have temporary health certificates because these individuals received their temporary health certificates without going through any workshop, you're still issuing interim health certificates without those kinds of workshops.
Well, that's correct, Senator. But also, we do still require, before we even give the interim, at least a test for tuberculosis, the TB. So that's one component of it. And you're right, Senator.
I mean, if you're looking at the fee structure that you've implemented, you can have a different fee structure, one for a temporary health certificate and the other one for a more permanent one.
Well,
Because
there is a different fee structure for the sanitary permit for that temporary events than from your permanent one. So there is one for the actual business itself, for the operation. I guess the health certificate is just for specific individual.
is there a way, is there any provision in these rules and regs that gives the director or yourself some administrative flexibility to handle these things on a case-by-case basis?
Was it the
Yeah.
No, but you have a section here on variance, right, where the director is authorized.
Yes, there's a variance provision, but with the understanding, in fact, the language clear, as I recall, that there is no threat to public health and safety. So yes, Senator, as I recall, there is a variance provision, and I think it was the health regulation. I know we're dealing with two proposals. I know one of them has variance, but it's clear that provided there is no threat to health and safety to the community. And so that does exist. And I do recall, I think it was health certificate. I would have to double check, Senator, but we do have that provision in one of the two.
But I think you raise a good point, Senator Respicio, that there seems to be a little inconsistency. If we're saying we're not going to issue any temporary, but we give an interim until somebody can take the class, it's basically the same thing, except they've at least had a PPD that we can look at. So I don't know. You might want to fix that in any language. I know what Tom was intending to do, but you're right. It is a little inconsistent.
Well, and I'm not advocating that these certificates not be given out, because there is also a community need, as you pointed out, that we have to respond to. But I'm saying, how long? I forget for the PPD test. How long does 3 days? Yeah.
48 hours to 72 hours.
I mean,
The way you do an interim now is you give it, and then they take a test, and they're still working within the 3 days, right?
After the PPD is clear,
yeah.
then they get
It's
the
just
interim.
for the
Oh,
workshop.
after the 3 days, okay.
And I'd like to...
How often can you have these workshops? Because that's why I
just-
said, how long does it take
right.
from the time someone applies to the time someone gets a?
What's the current waiting time?
See.
Right. Yeah. That's the reason. If we were to take over the workshop, we believe we can shorten that waiting time, since we'll have the facility, and we'll be able to control the time, the date for this workshop. And I think part of that is because it's willing to accommodate the request. The way it works now is simply there's a list, like opening of the date for the workshop, and they just fill them, they move to the next list, and unfortunately, if there's a backlog, they would have to keep pushed back. But like I said, I'm being optimistic, but I'm confident that if we take over the workshop, and since we will have our own venue, we can have it twice a day if necessary. We don't have to have a complete fill up the entire seat to have the workshop. If it needs that we to do 10 for 10 individuals, then we'll do 10.
And I think that what's happening with the current contractor is that it depends on when school's in session, when there are instructors available, those kind of things. It's kind of like the idea now they have about GED on demand. You don't have to wait for the beginning of the semester. So it'd be pretty much with us, once that facility is finished up there in Dededo, it could almost basically be those kind of workshops on demand.
On an average, how often are you finding yourselves having to issue a temporary certificate for special events?
The question is, how often does temporary events occur, Senator? Is that?
No, the question is, how often are you asked to issue a temporary health certificates to accommodate a temporary event? No, I guess I'll try again. My question is, how often do you find yourselves having to issue a temporary certificate because of a special event? Meaning, you talked about outreach and trying to figure out what these events are going to be, so you try to be proactive. In your current experience, not how many events, how many temporary health certificates were you asked to issue to?
574 in fiscal year 2014.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's a high number.
Yes, it is.
And it's and you're going to have average 500 people next fiscal year asking for variances and.
But Senator, keep in mind, if we make this a permanent link, once they get one, they wouldn't have to keep applying for it. Now, we're not necessarily saying that those 500 are different people each time.
I don't think they're the same people each time. It's just
Well,
people.
They may not be, because it's only good for
Yeah.
that particular event. Some of them will work multiple events. So the 574 could actually be maybe 300, still a sizable number.
And in some cases, they're for charitable events, right? So if there's an event and a nonprofit organization has an opportunity to sell something at the field house, they're going to need temporary workers who, they may be volunteer workers, but they still need a temporary health certificate. So I think you're cutting off a most critical component of this entire process through this rules and regs to not provide for this temporary health certificate. I understand your reason for it, but do you think we're going to be creating a bigger problem by, if you didn't have this temporary health certificate situation right now, where would those 500 people go? They'll be going to the director and saying, I need a variance because I don't have enough time to follow this process of getting a permanent health certificate.
I don't have a perfect answer solution to that, Senator, except that what things we can do in our division is, as I mentioned, be proactive. And a lot of these events are repeat events. Sure, every so often there's a new event, one-time event, and those we try to be proactive as well once we find out whether through the media or whatnot. But I like to emphasize that, and I do understand what you're saying, Senator. I really do, because we've come across a situation where they, want to, for good causes, want to have these events, but majority of all the foodborne illnesses that occur, that's been also documented, is through food handlers not doing what they're supposed to do. Something as basic as washing their hands. Now, that's something we all like to think we all do, but I like to think that once they go through our basic training, that the information's emphasized, and that health certificate's good for 1 year, so they're not limited to that one temporary event, but have the entire year. I think and I could be wrong, but I believe the industry will adjust to that. I think because we're accommodating and we're allowing it, that happens, that you have 500, it's possible the number will be reduced as they adjust to our requirements.
But are you still finding people apply the last minute?
Oh, that doesn't matter whether it's temporary or permanent, Senator.
No, but it underscores my comments, and my point that I'm raising is that no matter how proactive we are,
Sure.
people just wait till the last minute to get their temporary health certificate. So I guess I'm trying to provide some ultimate flexibility without endangering the community, right, with the requirements that you're putting forward. But I just foresee a situation where page 36, section 4421 regarding variances, the director's going to be busier. And this kind of could be a loophole because as you said, Tom, no matter how much you let these people know what the requirements are, they're coming in at the 11th hour saying, I need a temporary health certificate.
And
They're not doing it weeks in advance or days in advance, or when they learned of the special event, they're doing it probably the week of.
that's correct, Senator. And but once again, there's the section that you commented on, if I'm mistaken, that has about provided there's no threat to.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I mean. They'll be going to the director to get these waivers.
And director can refuse them. What we've been doing, Senator, is there's been situations just like that. And what we've done in response is we've actually went down on site and held if you will, like impromptu training on site, which we did that to one of the village events. So we do our best to accommodate the best we can. Now, it's not perfect, but once again, I believe that the industry will adjust to our new requirements. But once again, if the variance is requested and the director gives that, we're more than happy to be on site and provide that necessary oversight for that brief moment.
But that's
So
not.
that's something
But
to
that's
do.
not currently in the
It's not
rules.
currently in the rules, but that's something we've been practicing on a regular basis,
So,
Senator.
I don't know, Mr.
So that's the
Chairman.
variance part
I don't
that
know if
can't
I'm
be
out of
adjusted.
line, but can we put that in the rules and regs so that this rules and regs can live beyond your professional courtesy and your generosity in wanting to go above and beyond to make these accommodations? Because if there's no provision in the rules, whoever's going to succeed, so there'd be consistency, right? So that these businesses know, don't panic and don't run to the director. We can accommodate you by providing for a special class or.
Sure, that's something that we can.
I think in the allowance for the variance, and you can put the language in, but the allowance for the variance would be conditioned on.
Well, I don't
our
want.
staff. No,
I don't want to.
really.
I don't want to provide conditions for you granting a variance
And I
because
don't-
that's
No, I don't want any, I'm not going to be there forever.
My-
okay, and I don't know who, I mean, I want these variances to really have some real need. Otherwise, the director will just give a variance.
But
to
my
anybody.
position is not to make it more difficult so that these special events can't go forward.
Oh, no, but
I'm
we
trying
wouldn't
to
stop.
make it more, we're trying to be flexible here to, I think ultimately that's why you're there as the director to make those determinations, and you don't want to say you have the authority to provide a variance, but it's subject to the following conditions. That will really be micromanaging you. I think if we provide some provision in here that the administrator of environmental health can from time to time provide for these special workshops, or is it there? I didn't.
No.
No. Yeah. I say this because when this rules and regs is adopted, it's who's the chairman of the Committee on Health and which senator was present at the oversight hearing, and
That's right.
and now we can't have a special event because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people and 2 staffers.
So, what we'll
Only,
do.
Senator, only response I give to that, Senator, is everything's a balance, Senator.
Sure.
Of course, we have to consider the health and safety of the entire community. At the same time, we do recognize that the reality is, yes, there will be temporary events where at the last minute people will be requesting a health certificate. The provision we put in, the proposal we submitted is based on what we, Public Health, Division of Environmental Health specifically, feels is in the best interest of the community. I mean, it's also in a balance, Senator, and we've been trying to proact as much as possible. So hopefully, once again, I hate to repeat myself, but I like to think that the community will adjust to our new requirements. And like I said, we've always been proactive. And plus, we do have the Guam Food Code, which stresses a lot about what's called a demonstration of knowledge and also individual responsibility to simply say it's not just the onus is not on public health to ensure food safety, but it's a community and specifically the business and employees' responsibility as well.
Great. Okay. So clearly,
Just to
yeah,
wrap
yeah.
up, can I just suggest, Mr. Chairman, that you have an opportunity to submit that kind of language that would provide for that kind of situation to accommodate special
Sure,
events?
we can propose some language to insert as such.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. I think those are very good. Tom, just to be clear, right? So now what we're saying is we are requiring health certificates for swimming pool attendants, operators,
Yes.
Tattoo shops, laundry, and dry cleaning.
Yes,
So
those
this
are-
is not being required today.
At the moment, no, Senator. No, let me phrase that. The health certificate, yes, except for the pool operators, but not the not the workshop training. So in other words, if I was to be a cosmetologist or tattooist, I do not need any kind of training. Essentially, as long as I have a sanitary permit, a business license, and essentially that, you can operate as well unless you're required by the particular specific licensing office to get that particular license. But in terms of hygiene, safety, that's not part of their requirements for the majority of those that we regulate.
So now you're making it a requirement.
Yes, Senator.
So you're making the tattoo artist himself, he's required now to apply for a health certificate.
They already have a health certificate. Now they have to go to get the necessary training as well.
So how do they get a health certificate without going through any training?
That's cool.
So what kind of category are they now?
They have their own separate category, tattoo.
Tattoo.
And so you don't have a requirement for that now in terms of.
Sanitation training, that's correct.
That's
Yeah.
nothing. I'm sorry, this is Cynthia Naval. She oversees the process center section. It is her section that issues out the health certificates.
Okay, so if you can tell, so they're still going to be able, they still are required to get a health certificate like they are today.
Yes,
The only new requirement of them is they need to take a new course.
correct.
Okay.
They may already be taking courses for their own safety and bloodborne
Mm-hmm.
pathogens and things like that, but we don't require them to take a sanitation course at present. We'd like to remedy that and add a course for them.
Okay. And so what does the course entail?
A lot of it would still be bloodborne pathogens, but also in the cleaning of their equipment and their personal hygiene, the proper PPE to be using, the types that we'd want them to wear, smocks, gloves, hair coverings. Many of them don't do that at present. But we're looking at avoiding cross-contamination of their tattoo equipment
Okay.
and of
So,
the tattooing space.
so how about for the swimming pool? Who is required to get a health certificate?
Currently, the only thing required of public swimming pool is that they have a sanitary permit. But the operator of the pool is not required to possess a health certificate. As soon as they would like to remedy that by requiring it, but not just simply getting it, but getting a training to get that health certificate.
Can you define operator? Is it here?
I think it's simply the individual who's responsible for the swimming pool. And that could be whether it be actual owner or assign a manager, whoever they identify as the person responsible, point of contact, or person in charge. I'm sorry, I believe that's the word we use. I'm not sure. I don't think can't recall if the word operator is defined, Senator, but
Yeah, I didn't find it. So
but I think we worded it such that it's a person who's actually representing that swimming pool, whether it be the owner or the manager, or whoever's taking responsibility, if you will, for its operation.
So like let's say for a hotel, it'll be the general manager?
If he still wishes to be the one, or he can assign it to a lifeguard or to the F&B manager. I guess it's up to the individual.
So what type of, what category of health certificate would they be required to obtain?
New category, Senator.
New category. And then you're having a new curriculum for pool operators?
Yes.
And so for the laundry and dry cleaning, so what is required there now?
Physical examination, PPD results, and their photo ID and $10 for the health certificate. No workshop.
Okay, so this is, can you just help us, because we want to know who the people are going to come to us later on and say, hey, we didn't know about this, so we want to know who's going to be affected. What like these 24-hour laundromats?
A lot of those are public laundry and would be just the operator for that one. Anybody we're looking more at the dry cleaning part, people who have direct contact with your material, your sheets, your clothing that they're working on. Some of the public laundries do offer washing, drying, and folding services for the public.
So they'll be required.
The physical examination we look at for any kind of illnesses, infections, parasites that could be passed on to either the person that they're helping or the laundry materials, the sheets, the clothing.
So what about housekeepers like in hotels?
Yes.
So right now they're not required to,
They're not.
but we're requiring them to now. Okay. Wow, okay. And so nobody came in from that group and testified and provided any comments?
Can I ask this, the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, did they participate at all?
Not in the official hearing.
We're not in the official hearing, but we've shared as you know, we have the Guam Food Safety Task Force. Now, it's not to be fair for them because they're represented by the food and beverage representatives. So I'm sure there's a different group for the housekeeper, if you will. So I don't know if the information trickled down to them, but I know it was mentioned during our task force meetings. But like I said, maybe that was a proper venue for them to disseminate the information. But I do know that it's been discussed in the past, but I'm not sure to what extent they've been passed on to the members. So I'd rather hold on my comments to who was informed, who was not, because I'm not concerned myself.
Because it's going to be a big implication for them, for these hotels, right? For having housekeepers now requiring them to have health certificates. And so I know we had issued these notices to them, to the Guam Hotel Restaurant Association, but you know how these things are probably. They come in and no one even opens that email.
Oh, thank you. Right, thank you for reminding me. Yes, I was reminded that in the past, we used to issue health certificate to the housekeepers. For whatever reason, I can't recall. It was before my time, if you will.
It's probably the same reason we do it for laundry and dry cleaning, the transference.
Any idea why that stopped?
Yeah, exactly. Why we stopped.
There must be a reason why they don't issue health certificates anymore, and I don't know if you want to.
I can't speak on behalf of previous
Don't want to
those who
revisit.
sat in my position in the past. I don't know the reason.
Just so, I mean, not that it matters, just curiosity. Is this like an industry standard for other places where housekeepers, people that operate laundromats or public laundries are required to have this type of certificates?
Mrs. Senator, I don't know. I know that many places, they don't even require food workers to have certificates. So I'm not sure if other states and other locales within states are as adamant as we are. As having
Okay.
certificates.
So one last thing, Senator. One of the reasons why we're requiring is because I emphasize education. As you know, by law, we're required to do 4 inspections a year for every facility. We're not. We're simply not. So we acknowledge that we're not meeting all the regulatory responsibility in terms of inspections, but the education is a component where we think we can definitely improve upon, and to kind of offset, if you will, our inspection responsibility, I like the education will kind of help in that regards. So, as I mentioned, the education, I believe, goes hand in hand with the enforcement, regulatory enforcement, if not more. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. So we'll obviously have a markup on this one, but if you can just at least for the record, just on the other bill, on the rules and regs governing the workforce housing, just give us maybe the highlights of those as well.
I think the good thing about this one, Senator, thank you, is that we have a phased-in inspection process, and the initial phase is all of the workforce, dormitories, facilities are going to be at risk, considered at risk or high risk, and we'll be inspecting them 4 times a year. And if any of you guys are not old enough to remember what the old workers' camps were like, they were just, just terrible. I mean, and so having, and I think following a lot of the Department of Labor requirements for these facilities has gone a long way in making, kind of ensuring that at least our workers are in a clean and safe environment. So, and again, having this phased in capability to review and make sure that they're complying just reinforces that, and I think it's way overdue. We expect a fairly large influx within the next few years, probably anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000. We're hoping that most of those will be in facilities that are fairly easy to get to, because right now we're doing permits to accommodate 5 or 6 people at a time, so they're spread all over the place. And at least we know where they are, but we have to the best of our ability to make sure that they're in facilities that have proper sanitation, water, and those kind of things. And this helps us continue to make sure that those guest workers are living in a good environment.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And so we'll let you know when we have this markup.
Just
I
please
think we
note
need
that just the last part of this is where you refer to the dose, but it should be the tres.
Okay, got
I
it.
think also you referred to an attached exhibit that wasn't that needs to be.
Okay.
It's just on the second to the last page.
Got it.
At the bottom.
Okay, thank you very much again. So it's now the time is 7:07. This hearing is adjourned.